Welcome back everyone to our Little Gardeners program here at the Warminster Township Free Library. During day one, we talked about botany and the importance of observation when working with plants. By observing, we can learn how to identify plants and their individual needs. So now let's start from the ground up with seeds. First off, what is a seed? You can pause this video and have a discussion with your grown-up. Yes, maybe you've already thought about it. A seed is a part of a seed plant, which can grow into a new plant. So it's just a small part that will eventually, with the right soil, water, and light, turn into a brand new plant. Today, we're going to learn about different parts of a seed. We're going to learn about germination as well as what dissecting means, which is to take apart, because we're actually going to be doing those things. So in a moment, we're going to come back and read a story. So stay tuned. So now we're going to read a story called How a Seed Grows by Helen J. Jordan. Now, if you're looking for more resources like this one, this is a physical book that you can pick up here at the Warminster Library, you can go onto our Hoopla site, which is a streaming service available with your library card. And a really great resource is called A Look at Seeds and Beans. So if you check that out, it has a lot of the same things that we're going to be learning about. So this is called How a Seed Grows. And here we go. Okay. A seed is a little plant. It is a plant that has not started to grow just yet. Apple trees and daisies, carrots and corn, clover and wheat all grow from seeds. So you always start with a seed. Sometimes you could even cut a plant's roots in half and that'll grow two separate ones, but we're talking about seeds today. Here is a tree seed, and maybe you've seen seeds that look kind of like this. Yeah. Someday it will be a tree like this. Here is a flower seed. This is maybe a sunflower seed. And someday it will be a flower like this. Yellow petals, and quite tall. Some seeds grow slowly. These are the seeds of an oak tree, and these are acorns. An oak tree grows very, very slowly. Suppose you planted an oak tree seed. You would be a father, or a mother, or even a grandfather, or a grandmother, and the oak tree would still be growing. So trees take a long time to grow, so from seed especially. Some seeds grow fast. This is a bean seed. It grows very fast. It grows so fast that it becomes a bean plant in just a few weeks. You can plant bean seeds yourself. We used pole beans. You can use pole beans, bush beans, or lima beans. And one of the activities we're going to be doing today features a lima bean, and it only takes a few days to maybe about a week for you to see growth. You can plant the seed in eggshells or tin cans or old cups or little flower pots. Be sure that your container has holes in the bottom. Now, we use eggshells. We used a pencil to make the holes in the eggshells. We filled 12 eggshells with soil like this. We made a hole in the soil with a finger, like this. When you have made a hole in the soil, plant a bean seed in it. Plant one seed in each hole and cover the seed with soil. So this is similar to what we're going to be doing in a little bit with our seeds and germination project. We're going to be using not eggshells, we're going to be using egg cartons. Now, just like anything, you have to sprinkle the soil carefully with a little water. Number the shells. Write the number 1 on the first shell, put the number 2 on the next shell, and keep going until all the shells are numbered from 1 to 12. And we're going to be doing something very similar, and it's almost going to look exactly like this, except not with eggshells. We're going to be using the egg cartons, which are made of a cardboard. Just like that, we're going to put the eggshells in an egg carton. In our case, we're just going to have the egg carton. Put the carton in sunlight on a windowsill. Some beans grow faster than others. Our seeds begin to grow in 3 days. Your bean seeds may take a little longer. You won't be able to see your seeds growing yet. They start to grow under the soil where you can't see them. So we can't always see what's happening in the very beginning stages, but we're going to do an activity in just a little bit where you will be able to see each and every day just how like a lima bean will grow. Water your seed a little every day. The water soaks into the seed. The seeds begin to grow. More water soaks into the seeds. The seeds get fatter and fatter. So they need that water, they need that in order to grow. All right, so then you have to wait for a few days. In this case, in this example, they're saying wait for 3 days and then dig up seed 1. It may be soft, it may be fat, maybe it will look the same as it did before. Soon the seed will grow so fat that its skin will pop off. In 2 more days, dig up the seed number 2. And so these are activities that you could do with extra lima beans that you have. Because you don't need to use all of them, we're just going to use one. So this is another example of something you could do. Maybe it will look different now. Maybe the skin of the seed will be loose. And so here we go. This is kind of what's inside. Now a root starts to grow. The root grows from one side of the seed bean. The root pushes down into the soil, down and down. So this is like a little example of the root system going down. Dig up seed number 3. Can you see the root? Does it look like this? And this might be in our first example of what we're going to be doing, maybe day number 3. You would look and see if there's anything else you can see. If you do not see a root, wait another day. Then dig up seed number 4 and see if it's any different. So each day there's more development, more things happening. After a few more days, dig up seed number 5. Something else is happening. Little roots will be growing from the big root. They will look like tiny white hairs. They are called root hairs. So from that main root, you'll get little branches off, and they're going to be little white hairs. Day after day, the roots and root hairs push down into the soil, so they keep going in. Day after day, the bean seeds are pushing up. The soil is pushed aside. So eventually, we're going to have our stem, the very beginnings of a stem coming up, and it's going to come right out of the soil. Watch your seeds. Soon you will see pale shoots push through the soil. A shoot is the beginning of a green plant. A shoot grows towards the sun. So that kind of the beginning parts of a stem is what we call a shoot. Watch your seeds. Some may come up through the ground, some may have broken up. Maybe some of your seeds have not started to grow. How many are growing? You can count them. This is a great example of something to do with our seeds that we're going to be planting today in the second experiment. You can see how many seeds start to grow. The bean seeds grow fast. The shoots turn green. The leaves come next. Now your bean seeds are bean plants. They look like this. And so they might start getting little leaves growing out of them. How many of your bean seeds are bean plants? So another thing that you can do is to see how many actually turned into plants. A seed needs many things to grow. First, it needs soil. So you guys were given soil with your kits. And water. We did not give you guys water, but hopefully you'll have access to water. And the last thing is sunlight. So leaving it near a window or out in a good sunny spot is a good idea. Now some plants need a lot of sun and some need not so much. But most seedlings, or those tiny little seeds, are going to need a good amount, 6 or more hours of sunlight. If a seed has all these things, it will grow into a plant. It will grow into the same kind of plant that it came from, an apple tree or a daisy or carrots or corn. It will grow into clover, or it will grow into a bean plant like the one you planted, or like the one we're going to be experimenting with very shortly. All right. And that is the end of our story. So when we come back, we're going to have a short discussion about our book, talk about the parts of a plant, and then we're going to do our first activity. So we learned a little bit in our story about how seeds grow and some little fun experiments that you can kind of add on top of the ones that we're going to go over today. So first experiment that we're going to do today will require your lima beans, a plastic bag, some paper towels, and a cup of water, as well as your handout. So your handout is going to be talking about germination. So what is germination? It just means seeds beginning to grow. So you might hear if you have, seed packets or things, it might take 3 to 5 days to germinate. And what that means is that it's going to take 3 to 5 days for it to grow. So that's all it means, germination to grow. So we're going to talk first, before we get into our experiment, about the parts of a seed. There are 3 main parts, and your lima bean is going to be helping you identify those. Because there's 2 experiments, and we're only going to do one, but I'm going to teach you guys how to do another, and you have more than enough lima beans to do both. So for a part of a plant, this is a lima bean, and like our lima bean, and maybe you guys can see it, there is first an outer shell, and you can see the coloration. That's the outer shell, and that outer shell, or that seed coating, is protecting the plant inside. Inside, and don't worry, I'll be sending out a link to the secondary experiment that you could do with this. Inside our lima bean here, there is a little baby plant, super tiny, you can't even see it, tiny plant, and we call that an embryo, a little baby. And then next to that is food storage, because we are going to be watering this, but it needs to have some food already there to help get it started. So it does have that too, and we call that collidin. So those are the 3 parts of our seed plant that we're going to be talking about today. So what is the first experiment? Well, the first experiment is that we are going to add our maybe 2 or 3 lima beans into our bag, because we're going to try to get our lima beans to grow over the next couple of days, but doing it in such a way that we can see it, because if it's in the soil, you can't see it. So we're going to open up our bag here, and we're going to take some of our paper towels. We want the paper towels because we just need to kind of insulate, and also it'll keep everything moist and wet. So we can add maybe 2. Let's start with 2 and see how it goes. So we'll add 1, and we'll add the second one. And then we're going to add our lima beans. And you want to have your lima beans kind of on the outside. You could also use cotton balls for this as well. I've seen that done. And you don't need to use this plastic, bag. You could also use a plastic cup. I've seen both done. So there we go. We're just going to shove that in there like that. Okay. Get that all nice and in there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add our beans to it. We're going to add maybe 3. 1 and maybe 1 on the other side. And we want it to go on the outer edge so that way you can see it. And you could do 2 or 3. If you want to hold off on 1 or 2 of them, that's okay, because you can use it like in our book, the same thing. So now you can see, you should be able to see, there. Let me move our lima bean to the edge there. You should be able to see like 1, 2 on the other side. There's the third one. So now we have our things. Now you're going to add some water. Don't add a lot, just a little. And I'm doing this so that you guys can see it, but you should do this over a tray, or maybe, a nice splash area, maybe outside, someplace that if it drips, you're not going to be dealing with a lot of extra. And just a little bit. And you want to just get the paper towel nice and wet. There we go. There we go. Okay. So we got the paper towel nice and wet, and maybe you need to add a few more paper towels now that it's nice and wet. It's kind of shrunk. So we'll add a few more. Perfect. And maybe a little bit more water. Not a lot. You don't need a lot. There. I just sprinkled some water in. And then what you're going to do is you are going to close it. Our beans are going to need some really wonderful warmth and some sunlight, right? So we'll just move the water around just so that they're there. Okay. And now that you have your beans, and they should be viewable from all angles, there we go. What we're going to do next is we're going to put it in a sunny spot. And I am going to put mine on a window. So if you have maybe some tape, you could put it on a windowsill if you'd like. You could also hang this. So this is a great opportunity so that way you can see what's actually happening to the plants. So I'm just going to put mine right there. Maybe you can label it. There we go. There's our plant. Now, what you're going to do is every day for 1 to 2 weeks, you're going to take a note of it. Maybe draw a picture of what you see. Maybe the first few days you might not see anything, but maybe a few days later you will. So that's the first experiment, and then you can draw what you see. And so that's going to be coming right from the handout that you were given. But Miss Ann, you just said that there was a second experiment. Absolutely. Remember that cup of water? Ta-da! Remember these beans? You could also dissect them. Dissecting something means to cut them and see what's on the inside. So in this case, you can just dump your lima beans, 1, 2, right into the water. You want to soak them overnight. And then what you can do is with like a plastic knife, you can actually peel the layers and open them up. In a moment, we're going to come back and I can show you what that looks like. Okay? We'll come back and it's going to be a time jump for me because it's going to be in the future. I've put them in, but perhaps in a few days I will pull these out and we can dissect them together. So this is something you can do ahead of time with a couple of your lima beans. You could do it tomorrow. Look at this video again. Absolutely a great idea. We'll be coming back with both of these in just a little bit. So what we've done is we've done our seed viewer, and now this is a secondary activity that you can do with your lima beans. So you get 2 activities for the price of 1. So what you should have done with your lima bean is dunk it in water and let it sit overnight. After it comes out, it should look like this. So, can we notice anything? We learned in our first class about the powers of observation and how important it is for learning about plants and life around us. So what's the difference between the one we soaked in water and the one we did not? Yes, the one we soaked in water is a lot bigger, right? By comparison. It kind of soaked up a lot of water and now it's gotten a lot bigger. And if you're using the power of observation, we also talked about how you would use your 5 senses, right? So now you can use your sense of touch and kind of feel. Maybe take your not soaked lima bean and tap it on the ground and see if it makes a sound compared to the other one. So these are things to start out with. And now what we're going to do with our soaked lima bean is we're going to dissect it to talk about the parts of the plant. In your kit, you would have gotten parts of a seed handout, as well as a handout that looks a little like this. So you'll get one of each of these. They should have been in your kit. And so now we're going to talk about what you're going to do. Now, if you don't get a chance to look at this video, it does go over the steps that you will take to first dissect your seed. So here we go. I'm going to show you guys what we're going to do. Down here, I have my seed. What you're going to start doing is you're going to start pressing and then rubbing your hands, kind of in a like a circular motion going up. And you want to kind of do what I'm doing, which is taking apart the seed. And you'll see what I'm doing is I'm actually taking a protective coating away from our lima bean seed. A lima bean is like a seed. It's a dried bean that we could cook with, that you can find in your stores. And what I was able to do is take away this seed coating. All seeds have a seed coating that protects the inside of our seed. I have an extra one because I did 2, and I was able to get them both off just again by pressing and then kind of pulling away like that. Press and pull away. And eventually it kind of looks like this. Now this is without the seed coating. And the seed coating protects it. Protects our seed in such a way that it keeps our seed from, breaking apart before it's ready to sprout. Because as soon as I took it off, I was able to do this. I'm able to break it in half. Like that. So I have my seed there, and I have the seed there. And during this, the next question is, when you break it apart, did you notice any part of your lima bean that kind of looks like a tail? Yeah, this part over here. Yeah, this part over here is containing 2 very specific things. This is containing the embryo, which is the tiny plant that's going to eventually grow, and the food supply. So at the time that this plant has not been put in the soil, let's say, and before it got put in water, each of these seeds has a little baby plant inside of it, and then some food storage to help get it started. We call that cotyledon. I think it's how it says. I'd never heard the word before, and I just kind of spelled it out and sounded it out for myself, which is the food storage. And so that's what this little part is right there. Now, you'll remember from when we had our seed viewer that you saw things growing out, and I actually have it off to the side here. So, and it's been drying out so that way I can hold on to it. Eventually, with enough water and sunlight, it's going to grow and keep growing and then create new root system like that. Just like that. And that's what it's doing. It's creating a brand new plant from it. Remember, it has that embryo and the cotyledon, the food storage that helps get our seeds started. And if this was in soil, this little sprouted part would come out of the plant, of the soil, and then maybe create a new stem, and then eventually maybe flower, if it's that kind of seed. And it would be a lot like our other project that we did, right? So these are all parts of the seeds that that we are exploring and looking at in today's class. Now, in a second, you're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit more about this guy here, but we'll be back with that in just a moment. So we have one final experiment for our seed lesson today, and that is to plant some seeds in a real life situation with soil and water. So what you're going to grab is the rest of the contents of your basket or your bag. So you're going to have some egg cartons, soil, just potting soil, and you're going to have some zinnia seeds. And what you're going to need to provide is a cup of water, as I have here. And what I highly recommend is some sort of tray. A baking dish would be fine. So now we're going to plant some seeds, and this is a great way to do starter seeds. What is a starter? Well, it's just the beginning part of plants, the germination process, that beginning part of planting new seeds that are going to turn into plants. So tomato seeds or dill or, oregano, different types of herbs or, different types of vegetables and fruit. This is the way you're going to want to do it, and you're going to do it inside because we can control inside the elements. We can make it hot or cold. We can protect our seedlings, our tiny plants who are very fragile in the very beginning stages, from the elements, but also from pests that might eat them. So really, this is a great way to starting indoors with any type of seed plant. So we're going to do that with our zinnias today. So you're going to take your egg carton, you're just going to place it here in the center of our baking dish. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to add some soil, just like in our book. Remember, we created the soil and we had to create like a divot. So you're going to take your soil, and you can just use your hands, that's okay. And you just kind of want to, kind of pack it in there. And you want to do it for all of them. So you can take all your soil and just kind of sprinkle it in there. There we go. And it's okay to use your hands with this one. Just make sure to wash them afterwards. Okay. And maybe you'll need a little bit more. There we go. And this is potting soil. This is just like basic potting soil, which is good for most starter plants. Okay, so we have our plants, our soil inside of our egg cartons. Now you're just going to take your finger and just kind of press a little indent into each of the centers of the egg portion, like that. So this is going to be where our seeds are going to go, just like that. And what you're going to do is there's some left over here, we can fill them. All right. So now you're going to take your zinnia seeds and you're going to open them up. And it actually says a lot of really great information on the back. It says days to germinate. We learned that word. What does germinate mean? Begin to grow. Yes, It's going to take 6 to 10 days for this to begin to grow. It needs about a fourth of an inch. An inch is about this, so fourth of an inch, very small, which we have. Awesome. The seed spacing, 3 to 5 inches. We have them in special little places, so we're okay. And they're going to grow 18 to 24 inches, which is about 2 feet, which is a lot. And they're an annual plant. We didn't learn that yet. And soon we're going to learn about annuals and perennials. These are two different words, but this just means that every year you have to plant new ones. We'll talk about what perennials mean in one of our other classes. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the seeds out and you're just going to put them in the palm of your hand. And so your seeds are really tiny. They're even tinier than the lima beans. And what I would recommend, since we only have 6, maybe put 2 in each of them. 1, 2, and fill each of the little holes with maybe 2 or 3 of these. Because as we learned, not all of these are going to go to germinate. So we want to give it the best and likeliest chance to flower. And we're just going to plant them in. And if you have extras, that's okay. You can put them right back in, and you can plant these outside if you'd like. So you have some extras. Okay, so we put them in here, and you probably can't, you can see a few of them with here. So now what you want to do is you just want to make sure that it gets covered with soil. Just use your finger and just put the extra soil from the sides into the middle. And just lightly pack it down. Totally fine. There we go. Kind of like wrapping a present. We just want to tuck them into bed. Okay, so now you can't see them anymore. But what else do we need? We have soil. That's good. What else do we need? Water and sunlight. Absolutely. So now that we have our tray, the reason we needed our tray was because the soil could get really messy, but also with our water. As well as, this is made of cardboard, so with enough saturated water over the next few days, take 6 to 10 days to germinate, what could happen is that this could disintegrate. So we want to have something that keeps the structure. But why are we using cardboard? Well, it does break down. So you could actually cut these and just plant them right away. You don't need to take the plants out and then replant them. You can plant them right in this. So that's why the egg cartons are really great. These type, not the foam ones. So now we're just going to add some water. And in this case, I know it said in the book that you needed to have little holes, but again, this is actually going to absorb that. Okay. And now, you wait. What we're going to do is you're just going to let this sit in the sunlight. So as you can see, I'm right near a window, so you can put this right next to the window on a windowsill. And I have one right here. I'm just going to plant it right next to the windowsill. And then every day you want to come back and look at it. And so that means that you're going to want to look and observe what happens. Observation, like our day 1. We want to look to see what happens. Maybe nothing happens, or maybe something happens that day. Every day you come back and you observe, and you add a little bit of water, just a smidge, and you make sure that it's in a sunny spot. And now is the fun scientific portion of today's class. Every day you're going to use that observation skills. You can predict what's going to happen. You can come back and go, wow, maybe nothing happened. Maybe I need to add a little bit more water. But after a few days, something should start to grow. And that's part of the fun. It's just waiting to see what happens next. So in a moment, we're going to come back and I'll show you guys what happened with our zinnia seeds after a little bit of time. Hi everyone, so it's been a few days now since we have put our plants by the window. So we have those 2 experiments going on. We have the lima beans, where you should be able to every day see some progress. And it's been 4 days since I've done that. And if I take out our bag, let's see what we have found. Alright, so let's take our lima bean out. Whoa! just by putting in some, paper towels in our bag, we're now starting to see some growth. And here is that root system here. It's coming out from the top of the lima bean. So every day you should have been able to see some more movement on that. So we have that one, which is looking pretty good. And you can see in the corner, this one really, maybe it just didn't get enough water. Maybe it just wasn't growing as much. But we're starting to see some growth there at the bottom. So that one kind of didn't work out, but the one at the bottom here, maybe got too much water. So, hopefully you were able to see every day some progress on your lima beans and kind of see it, taking form, and growing roots and, a plant. Now, the other experiment that we did, which is not really an experiment, it's you guys are growing zinnias. And this is, again, only 4 days ago. I planted the zinnias and I planted them in those seedling pods and put them over by the window. I've actually only watered them once in between. We had a weekend. So let's see what it came out looking like. Now, you should be starting to see the very beginnings of seeds. These seedlings, I actually have 1, 2, 3 over here, one growing. I have actually a whole cluster right here kind of growing. One big one over here. So actually all of these are starting to grow. And every day you should have noticed some different things happening. Maybe not every day, especially in the very beginning. It does take a few days. But what was really amazing is that this was starting to grow really quickly, 4 days. And the back of the pack, I think, said something like, 6 to 12 days until germination. But we can, by having it start inside instead of outside, we can control how much water these seeds were getting. We can control the soil. We can control the temperature. So hopefully you can leave this still in here for a little while longer, usually about an inch or two, before transplanting them outside to then grow and continue growing. It will need more soil. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning into our class. We'll be back tomorrow with another Little Gardeners program. So we'll see you guys then.